I've wanted to be a doctor for the longest time. I applied to all the branches, but I chose the Navy because there were unique benefits. The Navy really tracking me and supporting me is the reason that it really helped me get to the finish line. They mentored me even as a mom. They went above and beyond.
And then on top of paying for everything that you need to become a doctor, what else did they pay you? Hey, welcome back to the Navy Mustang channel. Today I have for you Navy Doctor Lieutenant Gigi Pendlebury. Welcome, Doctor.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. She's gonna share with us her experience going through med school with the Navy. And now that she's in residency, she's gonna tell us, what her experience is, how she's loving it or if she's not loving it, all right? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I've wanted to be a doctor for the longest time. So it's been a big part of my journey. I think for me, the biggest thing was figuring out what type of doctor I would be. I think that was the hardest thing for me to decide. And overall, my journey to medicine was something that I've seen for many, many years. I think what's more unique about it is the journey into Navy medicine. Some of my origins go back to my husband. He was in the Marine Corps, and through his service, I was really inspired to get into more of the operational stuff. Without even realizing it. Initially, he went to combat, and I became very interested in becoming a VA physician and being a part of improvements in the system. I really like leadership, and that's why the Navy is such a great fit. I was really interested in veteran care. And then when I applied to medical school, I had a friend who did Air Force HPSP, and I really didn't know that existed. And she talked to me about it, and I was like, oh, that's a perfect fit. And I found out I could do it with the Marines through the Navy. And that was that's what planted the seed for me. I applied to all the branches, but I chose the Navy because there were unique benefits. I also liked the idea of being by the water. And there was just something magnetic about the Marines that I felt like it'd be an honor to be around that community and be able to provide care because the Marines don't have their own doctors. As you know, the Navy staffs the doctors for the Marines. So that was really what brought me into the journey of becoming a Navy doctor. It was very non-traditional, and in hindsight, I'm grateful that I did that because they're very family-oriented, and being a mom in med school, that was really important for me. So that's kind of a little bit of the origins of becoming a doctor. I feel like naturally I like to be a healer, a healing presence. So that was natural for me, and then Navy medicine came through Josh. But it has evolved, as you know, since then. But that's that was the roots of Navy.
Okay, great. But when did you decide that you wanted to be a doctor?
It started in high school where I started saying, okay, I think I'm going to go in the medical field. And I found that it fit many different areas of qualities that I had. And at that point, from there on, I really transitioned into starting to see myself as a physician, starting to get interested in it back in high school, I would say.
What did you get your undergrad in?
I got my undergrad degree in psychology, and then I double majored in criminology and sociology.
And what did you have to do to get to med school? Did you have to take the pre-requirement courses?
Yep. So I had to there's about 8 classes that are required. The pre-med requirements. You essentially can get into medical school with any degree. I mean, you could get a degree in art, and many of the mentors now, if you look at a lot of the people who plan for med school, many of them say, go get your degree in art. It makes you stand out. You become more diverse. You're seen more well-rounded. So you really can get your degree in anything. It's more of getting those 8 classes done, unless it's changed. Anything, and many people who apply do more than that, or they'll do other classes. It mirrors what's required on the MCAT. So you basically need those classes and the MCAT. That's real, and a bachelor's degree. But you could technically apply in the middle. There's ways of doing it where you're on your way to graduating. So you can't apply your first year of undergrad. But as long as you meet certain criteria, you are able to at least start the process of getting registered for the MCAT and things like that.
So how did you do it? You were in undergrad. How many more years did you have to study for the prereqs in order to take the MCAT to go to
Yeah.
to med school?
Yeah. So for me, because I did them all together, it was about a year and a half or so.
A year and a half.
And then while I did those classes, I was, and this is something I always recommend, I was with each class, I was studying for the MCAT at the same time.
Okay.
And so like I remember in physics, I would learn the topic, see what the MCAT did, and any questions that were MCAT specific, I would troubleshoot it with my physics instructor. But that's kind of what I did. And so I was taking those classes, those extra classes, and studying for the MCAT. So when I took my last class, I sat for the MCAT to be efficient and pregnant. I was just getting it all done. It's weird. I had it down to a science. It sounds crazy. I took my MCAT at 35 weeks pregnant. You get your score 4 weeks later. I got my score and I went into labor like 72 or it was like 50, 72 hours later. I went into labor. Yeah. And it's funny because most women are like, I'm ready for the baby. And I'm like, nope, I have to do my baby shower. I had to do my essays. Stay and keep cooking. It was just a different pregnancy. It was a different pregnancy, but I really just put everything together.
Okay.
I don't recommend that, but that's just what I had to do.
Well, but the beauty of it is that you can show that it's doable.
Yes.
It is
yeah.
100% doable.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yes.
And
yes.
I commend you for that. That's
Thank
phenomenal.
you. Thank you.
All right. So now you take the MCAT
Mm-hmm.
and you get accepted to med school. When did you decide, okay, I'm in med school, I want Navy?
I knew even before I got pregnant. So it was part of my timeline. I was like, I'm going to get pregnant, have the baby, get ready for MEPS, and just get ready. Like there was all these like requirements. So it was something that I was already my eyes on. I preferred the Navy because of the Marines, but it was really important for me to be able to participate in the HPSP.
What did that program offer you?
Yeah.
Why did you want HPSP? How did HPSP actually make your life easier and better when going to med school?
Man, I could go on. Under the HPSP, I was really excited about doing it. It allowed my family the flexibility of having my husband with my daughter at 1 year old, because I matriculated when she was 1 year old. So it was really important. We were in Arizona at the time. It was really important that he had the opportunity that we have no family in the area, that one of us could be with her.
Okay.
So the HPSP afforded that. When we also got.
How could HPSP afford that?
Because of the supplemental income and the stipend.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So basically it was really great because I had the full tuition scholarship. So those were things I didn't have to worry about. And then.
So hold on, I'm sorry. So HPSP paid for your tuition?
Yep.
What else did they pay for?
Books, supplies. It was literally, they had this long list of I found out even later I could have gone a massage table for like certain
wow.
Yeah, for manipulations and stuff. There's probably a more technical name, but if I got that to practice my skills, I could have anything. There's so many things that were on the reimbursable list.
Gotcha. So tuition, books,
supplies,
any supplies.
Board exams are like $1,000.
Board exams they pay for.
Yep.
And then on top of paying for everything that you need to become a doctor, what else did they pay you?
They would pay what they technically call the stipend, but we would have supplemental checks coming in twice a month. So that was really nice. And it was a buffer, and that made all the difference so that Josh was able to kind of transition and be able to focus on everything that came with having a 1 year old. Technically she was like 11 months at the time, but all the things that he could just dive into parenting and navigating and managing the household.
But with the HPSP, you go to any med school.
Right.
Approved, right?
Yep.
Anywhere in the United States, correct?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, people.
It gives you freedom to be where you want to be and to make those choices. And so for me, another thing that was really important was I was already somebody who wanted to be involved with larger institutions. I already saw myself wanting to do the VA and be involved with that. So I was like, okay, I can always transfer to the VA. To the VA after. I think I love smaller hospitals, and there's nothing wrong with them, but I am a very bigger institution, because the bigger the institution, the more that are impacted. And if you can operate and support those larger institutions, I just feel like the impact is more compared to your local hospital.
So let me ask you, when you compare your experience in med school, let's say to somebody that may have been in the same shoes as you, but did not take the HBSP
Yeah.
scholarship, would that have made a huge difference?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, what people don't realize is, like, I never wore a uniform. I didn't go to drill. People, I think one of the misconceptions that's worth talking about is, like, reservists and the IRR are very different. So people would think, oh, you have to go to drill once a month. Like, no, your job is to be a medical student. So you live your life as you would normally live. So I want to, like, point that out about HPSP. There's no requirements. You go through medical school. There's an officer training. That's one time in your career. And you on ADT rotations, which is called active duty tours rotations, but that's really a medical school requirement. Your job is to be a medical student. And then from that sense, it's not pulling me away from what I was already doing. If if it got into these drills and things like, then you could say it's pulling, but it was the same.
Okay.
So in many ways, it's awesome because if you're trying to go to become a doctor, these are things you have to do anyway. And you get time and grade, which my husband thought that was so cool. He was like, that's crazy that you get time and grade just for doing what you're already doing. Like, that was the thing that was very fascinating to him, because he didn't see me in his, it wasn't like how he got time and grade. He was like, you were going to do this anyway. So that was interesting from his perspective that he kept bringing up.
That's phenomenal. So now, what's the catch? Where's the catch, right? So obviously the Navy is not just going to give you the money. You go and do it, and there is nothing in return. What did you have to give in return for that med school HPSP stipend? What did you have to?
It really depends on the residency you choose. And I did want to...
Without counting residency, just the HPSP med school?
Okay, so there's 4-year options and 3-year options. So I chose the 4-year scholarship. So for my scholarship in particular, I owe 4 years of service. I chose a 4-year contract.
So 4 years of active duty service.
Correct.
Doing what? Do you have to go to war? Do you have to shoot people? Like, what do you have to do?
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of it is specialty dependent. A lot of it is what's nice about the military, there's not a cookie cutter path, and I think for many people that works really nicely. There's several avenues. So everybody pretty much has to do an internship. And that's your first year of residency. From an internship point, it's considered a neutral year. So the way that I explain it, I remember trying to explain to my mom, because she's like, what now? So the way I would try to explain it to my family, and I try to explain it overall, is like, you have 2 main paths. You have the straight through residency path, and then you have, I'm going to pause and do an operational tour. And I am a doctor in an operational setting. That could be in a submarine, on a plane, on a ship, different things like that. The Navy is now going in a direction where that is becoming not the norm. It was historically. Now Navy medicine has shifted over toward, you do your residency first, then you can play around with operational.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about of how your life was, what brought you to medicine, and how Navy HPSP made your med school journey easier? Is there anything else you want to say?
They really supported me a lot in medical school. I had to transfer medical schools, and my program they recalculated and reclassified my stipend so that it was basically not something I could have access to without getting into the long nitty-gritty details. And I remember it was the first time I reached out to Navy BUMed to be like, hey, this is happening. What can I do? And they really advocated. They're like, give them this documents. They really supported me. And it came to the point where I'm like, this is not sustainable. So I ended up transferring, and I was able to have so much support from that process. I remember hearing, oh, there's no such thing. Like, you won't be able to transfer. And I remember because it's a 2-part process to transfer. That's how I fixed that problem. That was a solution, and it required us moving, and it was in the midst of the pandemic. That was a tough time, but the Navy really tracking me and supporting me is the reason that it really helped me get to the finish line. They mentored me even as a mom. Like, they went above and beyond. I truly felt the first 2 years of my medical school that the Navy supported me more than my medical school. When I transferred, then I came home. Then I went to the most amazing medical school. The deans that received me, they were the only ones that entertained a transfer. The Navy, they have to go through like a process. It has to go through the channels. Mm-hmm. So I had to wait a little bit, but I had faith that they would pull through. And I remember when I found out, I cried because I was like, that was the last thing before I'm like, everything's going to be okay. And when I went there, going to South Florida changed everything to the point where I'm still in South Florida because I love it.
Talk about that in a little bit.
I love it.
So, but
it was great. They changed everything. I couldn't have done that with the Army, and I wouldn't have had that would have been so much harder had I not been in the HPSP.
So what I love about this story is that it shows everybody, and it reinforces what I always say. The Navy, when you become a naval officer, when you're in the Navy in any capacity, you build such network.
Yes.
Right? So you went to Nova. What happened in Nova? There was somebody that was in the Navy. They were able to flow through the channels to be able to get that contract change.
Yeah.
Right? And everything went smoothly. You had to work for it, but it went smoothly.
Yeah.
Right?
Good, yeah.
So that's a phenomenal thing. Hey, thank you for sharing.
Thank you for hearing.
So right now you heard it all. How she went to med school, why inspired her to go to med school, and how she went through med school with a child, with a husband taking care of the child, getting paid by the Navy, and getting the med school paid by the Navy. It's phenomenal things over here.
And emotional support. Like, I don't even think that's a calculable cost. Like, it's the emotional support they gave me when my medical school truly turned their back. For lack of a better word, it was like they just turned their back on me. And that was someone like I invested in them. I trusted them. They gave me emotional support. And I didn't expect that. I really didn't.
So those are the things that the intangibles that the Navy has. You understand? So we have anybody that can help you. We got chaplains. That if you need help, you need religious help, or just somebody to talk to, you have family support center, the Family Fleet Support Center, right? You have so many different things that the Navy will provide, because at the end of the day, we need our sailors to be good. If the sailors are doing well, then the Navy will be doing well. And we take care of our sailors all the time, even when they're just in med school or any other school. So I love that you share that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's nice revisiting it and coming back full circle and having clarity. And also, this is actually the first time I've ever shared my story publicly like this. I've shared one-on-one bits and pieces, but it's my story. I have to own it. And this is why when I think about what the Navy did for me, it was more than tuition. The tuition was like the smallest part of it. It was the hardest life transition. I had no family around. It was those tough times where you look up and you say, why is this happening? This makes no sense. That, to be able to look back on that and know that they were in my corner, literally helping me, trying to troubleshoot it.
It's priceless.
Yeah, priceless, truly. And it's nice to share it out and to be like, this is me. This is what my story is. I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, this is it for this session. But we're going to be coming back with her residency experience and then, any operational experience that she already has. All right. Thank you again for watching, Doc. Stay tuned for part 2 of this interview, where Dr. Pendlebury will talk about her experience during residency and her experience in any operational tours that she may have had.